we finished the discussion of Gideon last time, and we started the introduction to Avimelech, who is Gideon's son, and he's a really nasty fella. Okay, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do chapter 9 today, or at least as much of it as we can. But I want to just go back to the last 3 verses of chapter 8, and there we learn what happens after Gideon dies. So we learn, first of all, after Gideon dies, the nation returns to worship pagan gods, and we learn about the Baals. And if you remember, we talked about the word Baal. The word Baal literally means master. It is another way of saying God. And in Canaanite culture, there were many Baals because there were different Baals depending on the location. Okay, and so you would have in different Baals, temples to different Baals, depending on the location. So here we just have a general statement. They started worshiping the Baals, okay? And then we have something more specific, and they put for them Baal Brit as a god, okay? So basically, what did they do? They now replacing the God of Israel with something new, something called Baal Brit, okay? And we're going to see this Baal Brit mentioned as we move on in the story of Avimelech. And then what does it say? It says the children of Israel did not remember God who saved them, and they also didn't forgot the wonderful things that Gideon and his household did for the nation of Israel. So we have 2 cases of amnesia here. They forget God and they forget Gideon, and that of course paves the way for Avimelech. Avimelech is the son of Gideon. He cannot be more different than Gideon. If anything, Avimelech here serves as a contrast, an amazing contrast to what Gideon was, and we'll be analyzing that as we go forward. I just want to make one comment about this Baal Brit, and something that just occurred to me. The word Brit means covenant. And as we will, first of all, what we've seen until now, Gideon is from the tribe of Manasseh, and the area where he is between Shechem and around Shechem and further north. That is the area of the tribe of Manasseh. And what we see here is, and we'll see it as we go further in chapter 9, that the particular god, the one that's called Baal Brit, is a god that is stationed in Shechem. Okay, that's the place of the temple. That seems to be the center of this particular Baal. And I have to ask myself, the Baal of the covenant, the Lord of the covenant, which is what this means literally. Now, we know that Shechem was the location of a very important covenant. We learned about it in Joshua chapter 8, and it is also part of what Moses commanded the nation in Deuteronomy, beginning in chapter 11, and then later on in chapters 27 and 28. And this is very early on when the nation of Israel comes into the land of Israel. They're going to go and stand before 2 mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, okay? And they're going to enter into this covenant, which is the first time a covenant is entered into between the nation of Israel and the God of Israel in the land of Israel. And where is that? Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. In between those 2 mountains is the city of Shechem. And so essentially what they did is, and if you remember the description there in Joshua 8 and also in Deuteronomy 11, we're talking about them standing, or more, even more in Deuteronomy 27, you have this description. The nation is split into 2 tribes, one on the slopes of one mountain, the other on the slopes of another mountain. What effectively is happening is they're going up the mountain from the city of Shechem. Shechem is in the middle. So even though the name of the city Shechem is not specifically mentioned, we know that that is where it is. So I think it's just very interesting, maybe, and it's just a suggestion that I put out, because this was a place of such a significant covenant. That is why the name of the Baal here is given that name, which is an indication of the fact that there's kind of like a mixing of concepts. On the one hand, Baal is a very Canaanite concept, and yet it is, the name at least, is influenced by a very important strategic event that happened there to the Israelites. Now, this again is just a suggestion. I didn't see it written anywhere else, but it occurred to me, reject it or accept it as you like. Okay, so now let's go into chapter 9 and see what happens. Okay, so we meet Abimelech, who's the son of Gideon, or Yerubbaal, as he's referred to here. Anyway, we learn that he goes to Shechem. Why? To the brothers of his mother. Okay, so what we know here is that Gideon had, I guess, a number of wives. He had to have a number of wives. He had 70 children. We learn, by the way, if you go back to the end of chapter 8, it says in verse 30, and Gideon had 70 children because he had many wives. And look at verse 31, and he had a concubine in Shechem, and that is who Avimelech's mother is. Okay, so it's not just that she's from Shechem, but that she is a concubine. She has a lesser status. She's not really a wife. And what becomes clear to us as we read the story here is that she is not an Israelite. She is from Shechem, and she is from the Shechem, shall we say, Canaanite nations. Now, let me just remind you, some of you may recall when we studied Joshua, that Shechem is an unusual place in the story of the entry of the nation of Israel into the land of Israel. When there is a list of the kings in the book of Joshua, all the kings and all the places that are captured by Joshua, Shechem is not mentioned. In fact, Shechem is not mentioned anywhere, not in the book of Judges and not in the book of Joshua, as a city that was ever captured by Joshua or by the children of Israel. And if we go, I mean, there's a lot of theories about what exactly happened there. One of the theories that I mentioned was that if you go back, what's the history? And here we're going to learn that they're going to there will be mentioned in this as well as Shechem and Hamor. And Shechem, if you remember, was the son of Hamor, going back to Jacob's time. Okay, you can assume that this is the fathers of Shechem to begin with, going back to the time of Jacob. And we know, by the way, that there was a Shechem all the way in time, Abraham's time. So this is clearly the family, the Shechem family. And we recall that it's Shechem who rapes Dinah, Jacob's daughter. And as a result of that, the brothers of Jacob go into the city and are quite duplicitous in what they do. On the one hand, they say, sure, we will agree to have you marry into our family, and therefore have them all go through a mass circumcision as if they are going to really and truly adopt the Jewish faith and the Israelite ways. But then they just use that as an excuse or a tactic in order to massacre the city. Okay, so there is a theory that the remnants of the city, at least at the time of Joshua, may have had some type of Israelite belief, that something remained, that there were survivors of that whole thing, and maybe the survivors were people who really didn't truly, take on Israelite faith, at least to some extent. There's another theory that says if you're going back to seeing who these people are, the people of Shechem are from a Canaanite nation called the Chivi. Chivi is the same group of people that the Gibeonites belong to. And you may remember in the book of Joshua that it's the Gibeonites that come to Joshua pretending that they are from a very far away place and enter into a covenant with Joshua, some kind of a treaty that saves them, from being destroyed or expelled. Of course, this was done under false pretenses, but you still get the sense that they are forced to, lay aside their pagan ways, and they actually serve. They serve in the temple. Later on, we will see, and this is not now, but this is in the book of Samuel. We will see that it is when the tabernacle is in Nov. That's a Gibeonite city, and it seems that the Gibeonites are there. But that's a whole different story. But anyway, so this theory says that like the Gibeonites, they entered into some sort of treaty with the Israelites, whether it included a religious conversion or not. Absolutely not clear, but it definitely was some kind of treaty of coexistence or peace, which enabled them to stay as a Canaanite enclave in Shechem. All right. So whatever it is clear from this story that the people of Shechem are not Israelites, or at the very least, they're a mixture. They're Canaanites, and maybe some of them are products of a mixed marriage, which is clearly what Avimelech is. Avimelech's father is Gideon, who is clearly an Israelite, but his mother is from the people of Shechem. Okay, now you're going to see as we go along how this actually comes out. Okay, so first of all, we have Avimelech, who until now has been, whether his mother's in Shechem, but he's going. It says he goes to Shechem, so he has been hanging out in the Gideon family home, which is in the tribe of Manasseh, not in Shechem, okay, in Ophrah. And he goes there to the family of his mother, and he says to them, he says, I'm pleased to, goes to his family, speak in the ears of the Baalei Shechem, the owners of Shechem, the leaders of Shechem, okay, and basically saying, why would you want to be ruled by 70 different people? You know, isn't it better that one person rules? And here I am, I'm your relatives, okay? And they, this becomes, it's a process of I don't know, he's trying to get them to rebel. He's trying to get them on his side. He succeeds. And of course, the very fact that he keeps saying, like, for example, look at verse 3, because they said he's our brother. You have a definite feeling here. He is our brother as opposed to a member of Israel. In other words, we have two different nations going on here. The people from Gideon's family, they're all part of the nation of Israel. The brothers are all pure members of the nation of Israel. Avimelech straddles both families, both nations. And the way he is able to worm himself into the people of Shechem is that he says, but I am your brother. So he makes a decision at that point, and he says, I'm going to ally myself with the Canaanites, not with the Israelites. He certainly acts in a very Canaanite way. Okay, so what do? In verse 4, they gave him money, silver, and they took it from the house of Baal Brit. Now remember, we had just read a few verses before that the nation of Israel began to worship Baal Brit. So we learn here that the temple of Baal Brit is in Shechem. So what we learn here is, number one, we have a Canaanite god that is being worshipped, and probably has been worshipped for quite some time by Canaanite people in Shechem, but it's becoming pervasive. It's influencing all of Israel. That we learned a few verses before. But we learn here that the center of this temple, the center of this worship, is in Shechem, okay? And so Abimelech takes the money and he basically uses it to buy himself a bunch of mercenaries, which we learn are empty, rash people, just a bunch of whatever, gang people, whatever. He needs some powerful people. He is going to turn in a mafioso. He's not really a king. He's going to be a mafioso. And what does he do? He goes back to his Gideon's house, his father's house. Of course, Gideon is long dead. He goes back there to Ophrah and he kills all of his brothers. Okay, there's 70 of them. He kills them all, except there's one left, and his name is Yotam, and he's the youngest, and he survives because he manages to hide. Okay, and then all of these people, after they got rid of the 70, all of these people who are the leaders of Shechem, they get together. Well, there's actually two cities here. There's Shechem and Milo. Milo, the word Milo is also used in reference to the city of David. Okay, it was Solomon, when he builds the temple, one of the things he builds is the Milo, and the Milo is a wall. So the assumption here that Milo is a place, but it's a walled city very close to Shechem, which is also a walled city. Okay, but these are two related towns. Okay, and they go and they crown Avimelech king right there at Elon Mutzav. Okay, it's very interesting. We have a lot of Elons. Elon means an oak tree. It's a kind of tree, and we have another oak tree very, very close to here, Elon Moreh, the oak of Moreh. which we learn about in Abraham's time, because it's where God first promised the land to Abraham's children. He promised the land to Abraham there at the Oak of Moreh. And later on, when they come back under Joshua's time, and they come back to Shechem to enter into that covenant between Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, the geographical pinning of that place is near the Oak of Moreh. So here we have another oak, and I don't just mean it's like a grove of oak trees, but clearly in that area, there would be a big old oak tree that became a place of gathering. It might have been a place of worship, And so in the same way that there was that Oak of Moreh on that hill over there, okay, here in Shechem, there's another one like it, but this one is called Elon Mutzav. And Mutzav actually means set up or standing erect or something like that. So it's a place that was set aside for whatever public gatherings. And it is that place that he is crowned king. Okay, so what happens? Yotam finds out about this. And so he goes up to Mount Gerizim. So again, picture this. You've got Mount Gerizim, Mount Ebal, and down below is Shechem. So it's down below where this crowning of Avimelech takes place. And then Yotam shows up and he gets up on the top of Mount Gerizim and he yells down at all these people sitting in Shechem. Okay, and here we have a very famous parable that one of the first parables, if not the first parable in the Bible. And it is he uses this parable to teach a lesson, and it's worth reading this parable. We'll read it through because it has a lot of, there's the main meaning of it, but there's a lot of other sub meanings that we can get from it that enriches the whole understanding. So he's telling a story, kind of a fairy tale, but it's really a parable. Okay, so we start with verse 8. Once upon a time, the trees went to anoint a king over themselves. The trees, which trees are these? Well, we'll find out later on. If you look in, where are we? Why don't I see it? Anyway, it is the cedars of Lebanon. I'm just trying to find out where it's written later on. I don't know if any of you see it. I don't know. We'll see it, but basically we see from later on that it's the cedars of Lebanon that are all those trees. Okay. Anyway, so he goes to say these trees. He says they wanted a king, so they first went to the olive tree, and they said, "Olive tree, will you become our king?" Okay, but the olive tree replied, "Have I, through whom God and men are honored, stopped yielding my rich oil that I should go and wave above the trees?" So basically, the olive tree is saying, I have important work to do. I give oil, very, very important oil. I, do things for people. I have an important job. Why should I waste my time waving above the trees? We see already that there's a mocking of the very idea of a king. A king is seen as this empty trees waving around, moving air. Think about it. We have this idea of spinning wheels, windmills, the windmills and Sancho, from what's it called? From what's that book?
Don Quixote.
Don Quixote, windmills. It's all the same
Tilting
kind of
at
thing.
windmills.
Moving air around. Irrelevant. Okay. Okay, so this is what you have. So, of course, he says no, and then they go on. So the tree said to the fig tree, "You come and reign over us." But the fig tree replied, "Have I stopped yielding my sweetness, my delicious fruit, that I should go and wave above the trees?" So again, we have a fruit tree that has purpose, that gives wonderful fruit. Why should it waste this time just making wind? Okay, so the tree said to the vine, the grapevine, "You come and reign over us." But the grapevine replied, "Have I stopped yielding my new wine, which gladdens God and men, that I should go and wave above the trees?" Okay, and of course, wine, this is something that we very often, this is a verse that we very often quote, or we paraphrase it, the idea of wine gladdening the hearts of men and God. Okay, we all know that wine can gladden us all. It's a little bit of alcohol, always makes us smile. Okay, that's very nice. So then the tree said to the thorn bush, "You come and reign over us." And the thorn bush said to the trees, if you are acting honorably and anointing me king over you, come and take shelter in my shade. But if not, may fire issue from the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Oh, here's the cedars of Lebanon. Okay, so you learn from this that who are the cedars of Lebanon? Those trees. That's the kind of tree they are. Okay, now, what is the thorn bush saying? He's basically saying, if you can come in under my shade, does a thorn bush have any shade?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
A thorn bush is worthless. It can't even blow the wind around the way, these other trees can. It does nothing. Okay.
It has
So
no
he says,
fruit.
if you can't get any shade, which is obvious you can't. So he said, may fire issue from the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. The fire will issue from the thorn bush to the cedars and consume them all. Now he gets to what the parable means. Now then, if you acted honorably and loyally in making Abimelech king, if you have done right by Yerubbaal and his house and have requited him according to his deserts, considering that my father fought for you and saved you from the Midianites at the risk of his life, and now you have returned at my father's house, killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and set up Abimelech, the son of his handmaid, as king over the citizens of Shechem, just because he is your kinsman. If I say you have this day acted honorably and loyally toward Jeroboam and his house, have joy in Abimelech, and may likewise have joy in you. But if not, and we of course know that there was no honor in all of this behavior, if not, may fire issue from Abimelech and consume the citizens of Shechem and Milo, and may fire issue from the citizens of Shechem and Milo and consume Abimelech. He is basically cursing them with a mutual conflagration. They are each going to bring to the other's destruction, okay? And with that, he flees. So one of the things, though, that the parable, and we get it, it's all very obvious that the thorn bush is Abimelech, and he's saying the thorn bush is worthless. And in fact, we know that he's worse than worthless. He has worth, it's all negative. And basically what it's saying is Abimelech is like a thorn bush. He can't possibly help anybody. He can only destroy. And therefore, he's saying fire should go out and consume in both directions. But what are the other trees that he uses? Okay, who are the cedars of Lebanon? The cedars of Lebanon are the people of Shechem. These are the people he's talking to, the people who have gone, all these trees that went to look for a king. Okay, so he's talking to them, who he compares to the cedars of Lebanon. The cedars of Lebanon are very, very, very tall trees. And in this way, and I read this, there's a wonderful modern commentator, Yuda Elitzor, that he's the one who wrote this. I think it's great. The cedars of Lebanon, the Canaanites of Shechem are compared to the cedars of Lebanon. They're tall, they are arrogant, they are proud. They think they are better than everything else. And in fact, they have no fruit. They give no fruit. Okay. They themselves are blowing around in the wind. Okay. But they're tall. They give this impression of being powerful, which is exactly what the people of Shechem is. They think they're great. They think they're important. Okay. But what are the three fruit trees? These three fruit trees are the key fruits that are the land of Israel is known for: the olive, the date, and the vine. Okay, excuse me, not the date. The olive, the fig, and the vine. Okay, grapes. And if you think about it, this is a land flowing in milk and honey. The fig tree is so sweet. Okay, the fig and the date both. Okay, this is very much this kind of thing. The blessing to Judah that there would be so much wine. Okay, his so much wine. So with this idea of the grapes, the figs, and the olives, the oil, of course, the oil is so important in Judaism, and so much of what we see in the biblical story, the oil for the temple, there always needs to be anointing oil. All the holy uses of oil are coming from olive oil, which is something that, of course, is very, very prominent in the land of Israel. So the ones that have nothing to do with Abimelech are the ones who represent the people of Israel, or the land of Israel, the real people that have productivity, who understand what they want, don't want Abimelech as a king. But the people who do want Abimelech as a king, Yotam is basically saying they're empty, they're worthless, and at the end of the day will cause mutual destruction, which is, of course, what actually happens. Okay, I'm just going to go up a little bit and continue into the next verse, 22. Okay, Abimelech held sway over Israel for 3 years. Then God sent a spirit of discord between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem, and the citizens of Shechem broke faith with Abimelech, to the end that the crime committed against the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be avenged, and their blood recoil upon their brother Abimelech, who had slain them, and upon the citizens of Shechem, who had abetted him in the slaying of his brothers. So basically, these few verses here summarize the story that we will then start reading, how it all happens in practical terms, how it comes to be that the people of Shechem end up turning away from Abimelech, and how in the end they all are punished as a result of all of this. What this, if you were to just read the story without these few verses, okay, you would be reading a story of intrigue. There would be some guy that comes into the town, he turns the people of Shechem away from Abimelech. Abimelech finds out about it. He gets his loyal official to spy out what's going on. And there's a lot of intrigue, and each side is planning against the other. And at the end of the day, they all go up in smoke, okay? If you just read that story, you would say the story is about people. It's about intrigue. Now, somebody's a king, tomorrow somebody else is a king. There's always someone who's trying to undermine it. What do these verses tell us? These verses and verses like it is what makes these stories scripture. They're not just stories. God wants to make sure we understand that what's going on here, there is reward and punishment. When somebody does something bad, bad things will happen. And that's basically also what Yotam is saying. Okay, Yotam is talking about, he puts it at the level of free will. Every human being has the right to choose. But when you choose badly, you're going to suffer. That is basically what Yotam is saying. But here we get that extra layer. And basically, in verse 23, we say, God sent a spirit of discord. It didn't just happen. God wanted this to happen. He sends the spirit of discord. So all the different intrigues that we're going to read about, all sourced from God sending the spirit of discord, okay? And this is perhaps the most important part, 24. In order to punish them for the crime they did, the crime that it's two different punishments here, to punish Abimelech for murdering the 70 sons of Gideon, of Jerubbaal, his brothers, okay, and against the people, the leaders of Shechem, because they supported him as he was killing his brothers. So we have here a very definite statement. God is involved, and what you're going to read now, it's not just a story of intrigue, it's a story of God bringing just deserts upon the people who have sinned and who have done terrible things. And I think we will stop here. And next week, which won't be next week, it'll be what we said in 3 weeks, we will take up the rest of the chapter where we see how all of this actually unraveled. I'm not sure why, basically it starts with verse 25, which is the beginning of the story. But again, it begins with, what do they actually do? They start ambushing, the people of Shechem start ambushing the taxman, okay? Every time caravans pass, the king takes taxes. And so what happens is the people of Shechem start ambushing the taxmen and taking the taxes, and they don't end up going to the king's coffers, okay? That is, let's say, the opening fire. We'll then go into the whole story and how it all plays out. Yes, Claudette, what do you have? What can I do?
In modern day Israel, where exactly is Shem? Where is it located?
Okay, so I have my map. Let's see if I can easily, 1 second, go back to that and let me see.
And what is it called today? What's that area called today?
Okay, well, the city of Shechem is still called Shechem in Hebrew. In Hebrew, we say Shechem. Just figuring out, I don't know why. Oh, here's my share screen. And the Arabs call it Nablus.
Nablus, okay. So I got a sense where it is, yeah.
All right, so this is, right, this is Shechem right here. Do you see where I am? See, it says Shechem?
Yes, we see your little mouse there.
All right, okay, it's right here. That's Shechem, okay? So you can see it's in the tribe of Manasseh. You see that? Because Manasseh is the northern part of Samaria, and that is where Gideon is from. So Shechem is part of Manasseh, but it's, again, it was like a Canaanite enclave within the tribe of Manasseh. Hebron is, you go all the way south, here is Hebron in Judah, okay?
So you have to pass Dan to get to
Well, you have to go down.
Hebron, yeah.
You have to go down to Ephraim, Benjamin, and then you get to Hebron.
Okay, so
Okay.
tribe of Manasseh, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anyone else have comments?
I find it interesting that Solomon used the trees of Lebanon for building the temple.
Well, they're the best wood. I mean, the cedar wood is beautiful wood, and the Lebanon cedars were the best. But you know, and he had these vast trading relationships with the king of Tyre, which is Lebanon. But you know, here it's used in a more figurative way, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yes, Diane, you wanted to say something.
Yes, Sondra. What you were saying about the name Baal Berit, that you hadn't found any direct reference to this in any of the things you read, that connecting that with the covenant
Right.
that was made. I think you need to have more confidence in what the Spirit of God is showing you.
No,
I
have
really mean
confidence.
it.
Thank
Like
you.
this is a revelation, because the enemy is always setting up his kingdom in opposition to God's kingdom. And this is just a very cheeky rebellion in your face thing to call Baal Berit.
Yes. Right.
That's what I think anyway.
I think you're right. That's a wonderful way of looking at it. I like that. I agree with that. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it was great seeing you all. I hope you enjoyed that film. And we have lots more film content and emails and articles that I'm sure you will enjoy as well. Check out our website at CFOIC.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that right from the homepage. I know you will really enjoy the content that will land in your inbox on a regular basis. Hope to see you soon.